Is Subminimal's nanofoamer really worth 7 times as much as the standard foamer? Today in this video, we're going to check and see if the premium was worth it. We're going to evaluate it on 4 different things. We're going to look at build quality, ease of use, performance, and also look at the microfoam that comes out of both of these. And so before the video starts, I like to say that this is not sponsored. I bought both of these myself. And yeah, without further ado, let's get the video started. So let's look at the standard frother first. I bought this one for about $8. It's made primarily out of plastic. Pieces of it are kind of cheap. Kind of like this whisk part here bends a lot. And the way that you turn this thing on is using one single button right here and holding it. Honestly, nothing much. Like, you can't expect much from something for $8, but it does the job. Now, let's talk about the nanofoamer. This is the rechargeable lithium edition. This one is built primarily out of plastic, which is kind of disappointing given the premium of the price, but they do have some very premium features that make this thing worth it. For one, the whisk shaft is actually really sturdy, and so when you're whisking, you don't want this thing to shake because it'll add variability in how you're bringing in air into the milk and also how you're vortexing. So the fact that this is stable is really good. And the second really premium build quality about this is that it's rated for IP4 waterproofing, which means you can generally get this kind of wet and you don't have to worry. So you can wash this as you see fit. You don't have to really be super careful about it. Whereas with this, this just has a battery door, and the battery door is not water sealed at all. So if water gets in here, it'll fry the system. Another really great design choice that they made is they made this impeller right here and this nanofoamer screen replaceable. So you actually come with 2 of these. One is the super fine screen and the other one is the regular fine. You can pop these out, which make it easy to change. But if this piece were to break or this piece were to break, you can just go on their website and get a kit of 3 items, 2 new screens and the new impeller, and replace it for only $7, which is really great. And for whatever reason, if you break this shaft here, you can also replace that for $3 on the website, which is really great. And overall, this does have a slightly better build quality than this. I mean, they're both primarily made out of plastic, but this does have a few extra features that make it worth it in my opinion. And with that said, let's move on to ease of use. We're first going to go over the ease of use of the standard hand frother. It's honestly nothing special about this one. Like most, you click this button here and it turns the machine on. There's only one small nitpick that I have about this. It's the fact that you have to hold the button to turn it on. That means that as you're frothing, you're holding this button. And because these devices are kind of weak, you have to hold onto this button for about a minute to properly texture your milk. And you know, for people with weaker hands, they might find that their hand is cramping or their hand is getting weak because it's in this flex position. But honestly, that's a super small nitpick that almost no one would really think about, but it does affect the ease of use in my opinion, and so I wanted to bring it up. Alright, now with the nanofoamer. The button's on the side to turn it on, and you click it once to turn it on to full speed, click it once more to turn it on to the slower speed, and you click it one more time to turn it off. And I really like the functionality of that. The fact that you just click this button and you can go and focus solely on texturing your milk is super small optimization, but it's a really welcome one in my opinion. Basically, the nanofoamer does have a slight edge over the standard foamer in terms of ease of use, but also it is 7 times the price, and so you would kind of expect that from this type of machine. Now in terms of performance, that's where these two really begin to differ and the gap begins to widen. The Subminimal Nanofoamer is super powerful, and because it is super powerful, it allows for a really strong vortex in the milk as you're texturing it. This is super important because you want to be able to produce a vortex strong enough to pop any air bubbles that you add while you're doing the aeration process, and this one can really do that. It is just insanely powerful, and I think it really aids in producing super silky milk. This one is weaker, and so you have to have some finesse when working with it. But honestly, that doesn't mean that this doesn't produce good milk. It's just that this one produces really good milk in a really easy fashion. Now, second reason the nanofoamer, kind of outperforms this guy here is because of the impeller and the mesh screen design. As this thing spins, it forces milk through the impeller which goes through the mesh screen here. And so if there's any small air bubbles that exist in your milk as you're vortexing it, you're going to be popping it by pushing the milk through the fine mesh screen. This in the end produces really silk milk, and as opposed to this thing, these have really big coils, which are good at introducing air but not so good at popping air as you vortex. And so that's why this thing can really outperform this guy here. This design is just pretty genius in my opinion. Alright, but enough of me talking. Let's take both of these, put them to work, and pour some latte art using both of them and see the microfilm that's produced. The basic technique that I'm going to be using here is going to simulate what I would do on a regular steam wand. So I'm going to put the milk frother in at an angle and introduce some air first. Then I'm going to put the frother deeper in and more to the side to produce the vortex, to pop any of the air bubbles that I introduced at first. As you can see, once you're done, the milk looks pretty good actually. And so let's try to pour some latte art. When I try to pour a latte art here, you'll notice the foam is actually stiffer and denser, making it harder to pour good latte art. That's not to say that this won't taste good though, it's just not ideal texture to pour latte art. But also, it might be due to some of my technique. I have seen videos where people are able to successfully pour pretty good latte art using a standard milk frother. Alright, with the nanofoamer, I found it is best to put the wand into the middle. I dunk it approximately 1 to 1.5 inches in and start the foam process. I incorporate the air for around 3 to 5 seconds in the beginning. Then, to completely stop the aeration process, I move the wand into the corner near the walls of the jug. At this point, you shouldn't hear any more noise and just see a vortex. From here, I'm texturing the milk for about 30 seconds. Once the time is up and the milk has no more big bubbles, I stop the texturing process. Now, as you can see, this milk has a much shinier look. There's basically no bubbles and it resembles wet paint. This type of milk is much easier to pour latte art with and make really good and clean patterns. When you drink it, you can tell there's a difference in the texture as well. This milk here will be much more enjoyable and silkier compared to the thicker, dry foam of the other frother. Okay, so we've gone over build quality, ease of use, performance, and even poured some latte art using both of these. Now the question still remains though, is this that much worth it over this? And in my opinion, the nanofoamer is definitely worth it. It produces better milk, it is easier to use, and honestly, for $57, I don't think you can get anything that can do a better job at basically texturing your milk than this can. But I know $57 is pretty expensive. So you can actually just buy the battery operated one, which probably works the same. It's $39. And again, that might still seem pretty expensive, but if you are trying to look for a better version of this, you're gonna end up seeing that the ones like kind of advertised for milk, like latte art milk, are actually $25 to $35. And so if I had the choice, I'd pick the $39 version of this over, a $25 to $35 version of this. Alright, that concludes the comparison video between the Subminimal Nano Frother versus a standard hand frother. Hopefully you guys liked the video. If you end up purchasing this, let me know. I honestly really like it, so I'd like to know if you guys like it too. And yeah, that's it. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Drink well and be well, y'all. See ya.